What's up? My jam. Y'all already know who this is. We don't have to tell y'all who it is. Come on into the room. Let's go.
Come on in the room. Don't be shy. We live.
Let's go. Do we have one?
Hey, Janae.
What's up, Janae?
Let's go.
All right, we're about to get into this thing. You already know, if we stay on too long, we let this play too long, we might just get flagged. And I just don't want to deal with that because I don't want to have to dislike anybody, you know?
Yeah, we want you to love everybody. Hey, Kaylee, girl.
What's up, Kaylee? I don't want to be in my feelings, you know what I'm saying? I just want to be able to love everybody and give off good, friendly vibes, you know what I'm saying? If you are on, we welcome you to the Marriage Village. You already know what time it is. It's Monday. And it's after 9 o'clock. And you see these two marvelous faces sitting in front of you. That can only mean one thing.
What is it?
That means it's Marriage Village Mondays. Oh, yes. We are glad that you are in the house. We are glad to be sitting here in front of you. It is always an honor and a privilege to have this conversation, to get this dialogue going on. We welcome you into the Marriage Village. If you are here for the first time, what I need you to do is to take those fingers.
Share,
right?
share.
Take those fingers and share. That's number one. And then number two, I need you to put your name in the atmosphere, put your name in the comments, and let us know who you are so we can officially greet you. You understand what I'm saying? So before we get started, and before we start laying this thing down, I do have a question. And that question is, how are you doing? Huh?
How y'all doing in the house tonight, or in your house tonight, or wherever you're watching from?
How are you doing? We need to know. I need to know how you're doing. I need to know how your day went. And I need to know how you're feeling right now before you ease on off into the sunset and you close your eyes to rest for the night, only to get up and do it again.
Do it again.
So my question to you is, how are you doing?
I am great. A little sleepy.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on here, but I didn't go to the gym this morning, but I still got up because I needed to get some things together in my little extra room.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel a little sleepy tonight, so hopefully this topic will wake me up. Today was a great day. So yeah, how you doing?
Man,
how you doing?
My day was pretty dang good. It was busy at work as always. I like it busy because that means I move and I don't have to sit at my desk and I can get out and be amongst the people and, do what I love doing. So it was great, in Village. How are you doing?
How are you doing?
I need y'all to make some noise. Last week, y'all was a little bit weak at the front part of it. So I need y'all to step y'all game up this week, okay? I need y'all to be engaged. Listen, now they were weak last week. Early on, they weren't bringing the fire. They weren't bringing the heat. So I need to know, if you're on, I need to know, who you are, and I need to know if you had a great day and how you are doing. Okay? Before we get into this conversation, I need to know. All right, Janae, how are you? How was your day? I know you, I think you said you're about 2 or 3 hours behind us. 3 hours. So need to know how you're doing. Was that Kaylee who was on?
Kaylee, yeah.
Kaylee, I need to know how you're doing. And anyone else who's on, I need to know, how are you doing? Okay. And as we're waiting for
the rest of the villagers,
lovely village to give us some answers and to come on into the room, we're going to give you a little teaser of what we're going to be talking about tonight. You know, what did Kaylee say? What
she said, I made it through my day, so I am blessed.
Praise God.
That's right.
Praise God. It's always good to make it through the day. You know, you always feel like, well, you might not always feel like, but you should know if you made it through your day, you accomplished something.
Definitely.
You know what? You won the day. That's what you need to know. You won the day.
Like that. You won the day.
You won the day. With the help of the Lord, we won the day. All right. We are victorious, and we're getting ready to have some victorious sleep after we get off this call. Tyrone, what up, boy? Good to see you on tonight. How are you doing, sir? Hey, listen, we won the day, bro. We won the day. Doing good, feeling good. I'm not tired, but listen, when it's time to get off here, I'm gonna go on and slide on into home base and rest in the dugout. You know what I'm saying? Because that 4 o'clock in the morning, it comes quick. You understand what I'm saying? It comes quick. So come on into the room, man. We need to know, if you're just logging on, we need to know who you are. And the question is, how are you doing? How was your day? And listen, while you're trying to figure all that out, what we're going to talk about tonight is a topic that I believe is very vital for not just your relationship, right? But for your life.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't have what we're going to talk about tonight, your life could go off the rails. Okay? You could find yourself in a ditch. And nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to be in a ditch, right? What's up, Phil Smelly? Good to see you on tonight, my bro.
Hey, family.
What? Listen, bro. Listen. This is my guy, y'all. Me and Phil, we go back like kids and cake. You know what I'm saying? We go back like Camaros and Afros.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? We go back like the 80s and Afro scene. You know what I'm saying? We go back. That's how far we go back. But I want to know how you doing. But tonight we are going to talk about boundaries.
Get it.
We're going to talk about boundaries. And we're going to discuss it from every angle, because I do believe there are some of us who, you know, we just haven't stayed in bounds. And us not staying in bounds has caused us to have some hiccups in the road. It has caused us to have some uneasy nights. It has caused us to have upset stomachs, headaches, and pains. But tonight, we are going to give you the remedy, okay? We are going to help you and us figure out how to stay in bounds.
Hey, Alicia, my sister's on here.
What's up, Alicia? Good to see you on tonight. Again, we're going to be talking about boundaries. And, you know, I just want to say this. If you don't want to be reckless in life, if you don't want to be reckless in relationship, it's vitally important for you to have some boundaries. What you say about that?
I say pause for the cause for 1 minute, because the Right Reverend, the Bishop, our Pop is on. And so I know that Mom is nearby. Hey, Pop. Hey, Mom. Good to see y'all on tonight. Do I sound like something's happening?
No, you're not getting sick. Stop that.
I'm not claiming
Stop
sickness.
that.
I'm just
Stop
saying
that.
I feel a little scratchy.
Nah, you
But I
ain't
had to
scratchy.
acknowledge the
I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? I just wanted to help you out. You know what I'm saying?
I had to acknowledge the parents real
What's
quick.
up, parents?
But yeah, I do believe that boundaries in these days now in the nowadays they look a little sketch to me, you know, basically from how I was raised. And let me be clear, I don't think that the way I was raised is the standard for everybody. I'm not saying that, but I'm looking at the way I was raised in scripture, right? As far as according to the word, I don't see a lot of that happening. It seems like a free for all. And now it's like, you know, I'm free to do whatever I want, say whatever I want, be with whoever I want, act however I want in relationship. And so I feel like boundaries right now a lot of times don't exist.
I believe I agree with that, because a lot of times we are allowing the culture to dictate to us how we're going to be. And the culture right now is just full-fledged reckless.
You got that right.
Okay? The culture is reckless out here. And you cannot be governing your relationship, your life based off of what is being acceptable or what is acceptable in the eyes of this culture. You can't, because listen, if you don't have some boundaries, if you don't have a safeguard, you will go off the rails and you will be reckless.
So let's give a working definition for boundaries. I had it here.
Okay.
Sorry, thanks. I should have been ready to go with this, but I put it in the chat earlier. So 1 second. Basically, it is all right. Boundaries or boundary, a line that marks the limits of an area, a dividing line. So it is a line that marks the limits of an area. In other words, a dividing line. So a line that says, this is as far as we're going. You're not going beyond this point. And that you know, so just really quickly, there are emotional boundaries, right? Yeah. There are relationship boundaries. There are physical boundaries, like when you're driving on the freeway and you go over on the side of the road and you hear that burn, right? Yeah. That lets you know you're over the boundary, right? Yeah. Wake up. It should alert you. So that boundary is, again, a line that marks the limits of an area.
So a boundary allows you to know how far to go. Would you agree?
Yes.
So if you have a boundary, if you have an established boundary and you agreed upon this established boundary, that means that you should not be going past that boundary or beyond that boundary for any reason. And I want to say that because a lot of times we get in a relationship, we get in friendships with people, and we start hanging out with people, and they don't have the same boundaries that we do have. And first of all, they don't know the boundaries that, okay, let's just say hypothetically, you're in a relationship and you and your spouse have created this agreement that says we're not going to go past this thing here. And then your friends start coming into your world and telling you, well, why can't he control you? Why can't she? Why you letting her control you, or why you letting him control you? When at the end of the day, when you guys made that agreement, everybody else needs to stay back there.
So it's not about a person controlling you. The covenant should control you.
Absolutely.
The covenant controls us, right? And I will say this. I have fought against that at times because and not so, and we'll get into it, but sometimes you just feel like I'm grown, I want to do what I want to do, right? But when you have agreed to something, and especially when you're talking about in the marriage covenant, which we'll get into that in a little bit as well, but when you make an agreement, the Bible says that it's better not to vow, than to vow a thing and not pay it.
That's it.
And so it's the same thing across the board in a marriage, in other relationships where you enter into agreements. You have to keep your word, and you have to stick within the boundaries of the agreement.
My dad used to say, let your word be your bond. he raised me and my sisters off of that concept. What's up, CJ? Good to see you on the night, daughter. What's up, Leanna?
Hey.
Hey, what up? Good to see you. We miss you, man. We miss both of y'all. But this is the thing. Like, if it's easy for you to go beyond the boundaries, then that should tell you something is going on with your integrity. Something is going on with your character, because when you make an agreement, you have to stick to the agreement. Now, if you're going to change the agreement, then that means another conversation needs to be had so that we can reestablish a new boundary, or we can reestablish a new agreement. We have to have something that helps us govern this thing, because the word says, "How can two walk together lest they agree?" So there has to be agreement on some form, even if that's an agreement to disagree. That's still a form of agreement. Okay.
Right. And so I like that you said that, because sometimes what happens in relationships is boundaries are set, but they are not agreed upon, or they are agreed upon for the sake of keeping peace, not because you truly agree with what is being established. And so whose fault is that when you agree to something that you don't really want to do?
Well, I think there's going to be moments where you don't want to do something, but you should do it because it's necessary. Because, right, like you said earlier, you're going to have moments where you don't want to do something because your inner person just wants to be reckless.
And so let's talk about some of those things. So can you give an example? I know I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but where what would be an agreement? Okay, so we know in a marriage, right, there's a boundary. Your body is not your own, right? So right, you don't step outside of your marriage to get your fleshly needs fulfilled.
Right.
In other words, adultery and stepping out for sex, or stepping out for emotional connections with that of the opposite sex. That's a flag on the play.
Absolutely.
In a marriage. That is absolutely going beyond the boundary, right? But then what would be something where, so like I said, don't agree to something if you don't really want to do it?
I think let's just say hypothetically, we agree that when we get to work, we're going to text one another to let one another know, hey, I made it to work safe and sound. Now, on the onset, that doesn't sound like a bad agreement, right? Doesn't sound like it's going to.
I got one coming for you.
It's not going to cause too many issues. But let you not keep that agreement and somebody holds your feet to the fire. Hey, you're supposed to let me know. And see, this is the thing. You can't get mad when somebody holds you accountable to the agreement that you made. You can't get mad. Well, you can, but you shouldn't, because you made the agreement.
So for that example, and he's right. Okay, so for that example, we do that. We send a message when, that was something we agreed upon for nothing more than a safety measure. Because sometimes I would leave out for work pretty early. I would leave at like 6:30, early in the morning, to get to work by 7 or whatever. And so, it was dark, this daylight savings time, this stuff. But anyway, this is something we started 17 years ago. So it just has continued. Now, is it going to be the end of the world if I get to work, or has it been the end of the world if I've gotten to work and forgotten to text? No, but does he call me out on it? Absolutely. And do I call him out on it? Absolutely, because the agreement says we're going to let each other know that we made it safely. And that's more of a care and concern thing. That's not at all about control, because that is, listen, and when we lived in Columbus, we had to get on the freeway to get to work. And when we lived in Florida, he had to get on the freeway to get to work. So it was different thing. And Florida, 95 South is nuts. If you have not heard, if you have not driven it, it's crazy. So, literally 1-car accidents up and down the expressway, the freeway, the turnpike, all of it. Well, the turnpike is not 95, but you all know what I'm saying. So anyway, that was the agreement. Now, things like, here's another one. This is for all of my single sisters that are looking to be married. Don't agree to stuff just to get married. Don't agree to things. Hey, Candace,
What's
Dr.
up, Candace?
We don't want to agree to things just to get somebody to find us appealing, right? I don't know, things. Go ahead.
But if you did, you hold fast to your agreement.
Or get back to the table.
Or come back to the table. But this is my thing. If you made the agreement just because now it's uncomfortable for you, that doesn't give you the right to get out of the agreement that you made.
That's another good point. So discomfort does not constitute breaking the agreement.
Absolutely not. You should not be breaking the agreement because now it's uncomfortable for you. It's uncomfortable for me. But guess what? I still did. I made the agreement, so I got to hold fast to it. Now, like I said, there are some agreements that, yeah, you need to go back to the drawing board and reassess if that's an agreement that should stand, that should still stand. But at the end of the day, if you made the agreement, as my dad would say, let your word be your bond.
So here's a funny for you all. We got a comment too. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you got
it. So when we got married, I'm gonna iron his clothes every day.
Oh, but when she got mad at me,
I did not iron any clothes.
She didn't iron my clothes. And she didn't feel like waking up in the morning. She didn't iron my clothes. Okay. But let me not have opened that door. Oh, she was all on me. She was giving me the business, Saints. She was letting me have it. I'm like, hold on. You don't get to do that. If you gonna hold me accountable to having to get up, warm this car up, even when I'm tired, you hold yourself to that same standard because that's what we both agreed to. And you don't get to get out because you tired or you frustrated or nothing like that because you won't let me do it.
And so here's the thing. So we had to go back to the table on that. The other thing with the ironing of the clothes, it was something that I was like, oh, this is a nice thing to do for her husband. But then our work schedule started shifting, like all the things started happening. I'm like, this is not something I can maintain.
So you got to, like, you have to start reassessing, right? You have to reassess that particular boundary and establish whether or not it works for right now. Because, okay, you got to leave a little wiggle room into allowing a person to be able to make adjustments.
Yeah, and so that was more of the agreement part, because not so much a boundary with the iron of the clothes, but it was something that I agreed to that I was not able to maintain. So the point with that is, again, if you realize something comes up in your relationship, and this is in your marriage, in your work relationships, in your sisterhoods, in your brotherhoods, if you realize something comes up and you can no longer maintain the thing that was agreed upon, just go back to the table and have a conversation.
Absolutely.
All right. So Janae says boundaries are for both parties. There's a limit to how far I can go and how close you can come. The line separates what's your stuff and what's my stuff. Absolutely. In the case of marriage, what's our stuff? Correct.
Absolutely.
Absolutely right.
And let me say this, okay?
Oh Lord.
When we are married, it's our stuff, right? It's our stuff. You don't get to just make a judgment call when it's our stuff. You need to come have a conversation with me before you go making some changes and adjustments.
Absolutely. So again, if we agreed to something and I no longer want to hold that up. Okay, so for example, and this, you all know, we get very candid. We have a joint checking account. Now and this is not, I don't care how other people do it. Their way is not right and ours wrong, or vice versa. I'm just pointing out that that's what we have decided to do. That's what we decided to do. And then there is an account that you all know, your sis, your big sis, your auntie, whoever I am to you. I am a recovering spender. So there is another account that I have access to in the case of an emergency, but I don't mess around with that account. I don't really even know. I just know if something goes tight, if it gets tight in the main account, money appears. And if it wants to continue to appear, I need to stay out of it, right? So that's a boundary that we have set in this relationship to protect our stuff. And so you have to do what is necessary,
yes,
to protect your stuff in a marriage. And now am I saying that I'm just gonna go and blow all our money? No, but I realize that finances is an area where God is helping me. I'm growing in that area. Absolutely. And so you gotta also, in knowing yourself, knowing your boundaries, you gotta know yourself. Because you won't say that. You won't set appropriate boundaries if you're not honest about who you are and where you are.
And you have to certainly you certainly have to know who you are and be honest with where you are. Because if you think you perfect, but you blowing it every time, you have to be honest with yourself. I am not good here, and then when a boundary is put in place to keep you from getting out of bounds, you have to hold fast to the mark that you set to keep you in bounds. I don't care you can't let your friends, your family members, your attitude, your discomfort cause you to go outside of the agreement that was made when the agreement was made so that you and us could be fine.
Right. And then sometimes we let our pride take us beyond the boundary because we feel like in our pride, in our flesh, in ourselves, oh, I'm good there. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can go this far. No, to thine own self be true. I can't even remember who said it, but I know I know I've heard it on The Godfather. Yes, I do like The Godfather trilogy. Sorry, judge me, pray for me, whatever you need to do. But that was a quote from that movie. I know that's not who originally said it, but anyway, that's where it came real for me.
Yeah, I think again, you can't, all right, when it comes to the agreements and the boundaries that you put in place to keep you both in bounds, you can't let anyone or anything outside of the relationship or the marriage or the friendship, whoever that is outside of the agreement that you made, you can't let those people influence you to make a decision outside of the agreement that was made. Because if you do that, you're going to have problems. Why? Because that's a disagreement.
Right. And I'm laughing because first thing that came to my mind was, you think you can do these things, Nemo, but you can't. Remember on Finding Nemo, y'all know I'll use whatever. What is it? I'm not even gonna say what it was they lived in because I was like anonymity. That's but anyway, he wanted to go outside of the borders and he wasn't quite ready. So Nemo faced some challenges because he went beyond the boundary that was set for his protection. And so, yes, I'm using Finding Nemo, but it's the same principle. Don't let other people and that came from what you said, don't let other people pull you beyond boundaries that you set. You see other people doing things and you think, oh, I can do that too. Not necessarily.
Listen, it's like going to the pool or going to the ocean and you ain't that good of a swimmer. And you letting your friends convince you to go way out there and you can't even doggy paddle well. What kind of madness?
Then you start drowning, and then you expect everybody else to jump in and save you, which we will, right? People will do that, but have we not pushed ourselves beyond realistic boundaries, we wouldn't find ourselves in those sinking situations.
Absolutely. And it's good to know that whatever, so what's good for us, what boundaries we set for us may not be a boundary that you need in your relationship. So don't base your boundaries off of other people and don't base other people's boundaries on your relationship because what they may be able to handle, you may not be able to handle.
So that's the next one. Don't base your boundaries on other people's relationships.
No, because, although people mean well and people want to give you advice, but sometimes if they don't have the insight into, you might want to, because they can't see, you might just want to read it because our faces are covered.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Tyrone said, I didn't mean, I was trying to let you finish your thought. See, you done got distracted by the bigness of the wording. Okay, all right. It says, Tyrone says, I think speaking on marriage or relationships, I think a lot has to do with just good old common sense facts.
Yes.
For example, I should just know by common sense not to be in other females' inboxes, text, or whatever, reaching out for emotional or moral support. If your spouse receives a text, email, or inbox, then you should not allow him or her to cross that boundary. Absolutely. Period. Protect your marriage. If I had a question with Cass, then I'm not gonna directly inbox or text her. I'm gonna go to Joe. I already know that's what he said.
What's up, Gibbs? Good to see you on tonight.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, but this is the thing, though. You have to realize, I want
to dig into. I want to dig into Tyrone's comment because that's facts. Okay, so let me tell you right now, and I don't talk a lot about, adultery and infidelity. I mean, we mention it and we talk about how, because it's a real thing, right? Thank the Lord it's not present in this union. To God be the glory, and he gets the glory. However, what we do like to point out is certain things will feed into that.
Absolutely.
And so what Tyrone said about, if you got something and you have something emotionally for someone else, it is not a good idea.
No.
For married men, to be sliding in married women or single women's DMs and vice versa for emotional support. Because what do you think emotions are? Flesh.
Absolutely.
Flesh.
And you find yourself in a bad situation. That's what happens. Listen, see, sin is subtle. So it's a subtle door or a little cracking in the door. And before you know it, Satan is all the way in. What did Alonzo say?
He said, if a woman calls me, I three-way my wife real quick. Yes.
Absolutely. See, you got to have these boundaries. And just because other people think that's like crazy or that's too far or too much, let them be that way. You hold fast to what you guys established in your marriage. Don't let other people come into your world and change the establishment that you have set between one another. What is leaving and cleaving all about? It's leaving mommy and daddy's way of doing it. It's leaving our friends' way of doing it and coming into what God says is best for us as a couple and in this union.
Absolutely. And sometimes people say, well, I can have friends of the opposite sex. Y'all old fashioned, or y'all, you should be able to trust them. Oh no, I don't trust the flesh. Nobody's Absolutely. Flesh. And so I don't trust my flesh. I don't trust his flesh. I don't trust your flesh. And Absolutely. So anytime you get in a situation where emotions are involved, it's open season.
Listen, it can go bad fast.
And so I want everybody to be real about that, because a lot of times that's that pride coming in. Well, I'm not going for, I know, I already saw it. That's that pride coming in. Well, I wouldn't do that. I would never do that. You don't know what you would ever do until you're faced in the moment and presented with it. And when your emotions are in the driver's seat, you don't make clear decisions.
So first of all, I don't want my good works being evil spoken of. That's number one. I don't want to be doing something good and then something evil be spoken about it because it was done carelessly, without thought and or concern. You have to make sure it's not just about you. You have to be thinking about your spouse in the position that you can be putting them in at all times.
Absolutely.
It's not just about you.
It's not at all. Alonzo said, if you slide, I hope you get a splinter in your
get a splinter in your slider. That's what I'm saying. But the thing is like, we have to know, like, again, it's just because it's good for other people or they shake and move that way. Don't let that reestablish what you have set as a necessary safeguard and boundary for your relationship. Absolutely. Because it's literally about us two or the situation that we agree to, regardless if you're in marriage or relationship or not. So we have to make sure that we hold steady to those boundaries. And okay, so we have to discover, number one, there's good boundaries and there are bad boundaries. There are good boundaries and there are bad boundaries. And you have to know your relationship well enough to know what is a bad boundary for you. Like, again, we were just talking about reaching out. First of all, let me just go on and say this. If you're a married man, it's just not smart. It's just not smart to be all up in some lady's DM. Like, if they're out there dressed all scantily clad and all that, you shouldn't be pushing the like button and you're married, because that can send the wrong message to your wife. That's just not smart. That's just not smart.
And some people say, well, that's just my friend, that's just my homie. I'm not, I don't mean nothing by it. That's like little sis, little bro. It doesn't matter. If she got on a 2-piece bikini and you hit like and you're a married man, definitely not. Why would you like your sister in a two-piece bikini.
Absolutely.
Same thing
not.
for you ladies, the men in the Speedos. I mean, I know that sounds good. That's all I can go. The Chippendales, Magic Mike, right?
The men in tight.
Don't like. And even if in your flesh you do like, do not use that finger to manifest that like through the Facebook.
Because again, it's about respecting the boundaries in our relationship that we said. Rochelle has something that she said.
She said, absolutely, boundaries are required for any relationship, especially in marriage. Yes,
absolutely. And because again, not everybody has the same moral and ethics.
Right.
Morality is at an all-time low. So you have to be safeguarding yourself from this this fallen morality that is operating in our culture, not just in the world, but also in the church. I don't care if you see a pastor or a bishop doing whatever. That still doesn't give you the okay to do it. Because first of all, you have to know what you can do and what you can't do and what God says about all of it.
That's it.
You have to know what God says about all of it. And what he says about all of it ultimately is all that matters. Because you could be out here doing all this stuff and not even realizing how far you have drifted away from what's important.
Ooh, that's good. Okay, so we were at work the other day and one of my coworkers, Shalane, shout out, he brought up the term or the phrase mission drift. And that is when you have moved in a business setting, and we talked about it in our HR class as well, but it is when you have moved away from the original intent of a thing, whether it's in business, in ministry, in marriage. So I'm pulling that in right now. Mission drift, right? When you are single, your heart and your mission, right, is to do the things, look after the things of God. If you are a Christian, right, if you're a believer, and you are a disciple of Jesus, that is your mission, right? But when you start opening up your boundaries, you start drifting from the mission, entertaining other things.
Yeah.
Same thing in marriage. When you are married, your first responsibility after God is to that marriage.
Absolutely.
And so when you start stretching the boundaries and letting this creep in and letting that creep in, then you start drifting from the mission.
And that could be a deadly thing. And you have to be paying attention. It's like sort of like if you're in the water at an ocean or at a beach or something, or in a pond or something like that, and you're not paying attention to, you're drifting farther away from the shoreline.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you can look up, like if you ain't paying attention, you can be way out there. And if you don't know how to swim, and guess what, you out there by yourself, that could be a sticky situation.
Yeah, I know in Florida, that was a big thing. So we got a question here. Mm-hmm. That was a big thing. And I just posted, watch out for the riptides, right? Because that was something that basically, number one, like you said, you start getting pulled further and further away from the shore, and you don't even realize it because you're just relaxing and enjoying the water. And you just kind of going and letting the waves do what they do. And before you know it, you are out, like he said, beyond what you can handle. Listen. And then if a riptide comes in, it's going to pull you under.
Listen.
And so when you don't set appropriate boundaries, not only do you drift further than you ever intended, but you could also be pulled under.
Amen.
You could be pulled under.
Listen.
So the question on the floor is, how do you repair the relationship after boundaries are crossed?
Well, I think the first thing that you have to do is you have to come to the table and address the fact that a boundary has been crossed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You literally have to sit down at the table and discuss that the boundary has been crossed. And then you have to explore, why was the boundary crossed?
Mm-hmm.
And then after you discuss why, then now you have to have the real conversation and that is, okay, now that the boundary has been crossed and we've addressed it, what are we going to do about it? You have to do something about it. And the person who has gone beyond the boundary has to be truthful in the fact that, hey, I went too far. So an apology has to happen at some point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the apology happens, then you also have to now establish the boundary and say, I'm not going to go past this boundary anymore. And we make that agreement on it. And now you also have to put safeguards into assuring that you're not going to do it again. You got something you want to add?
Well, no, that's what I was just kind of taking it in as you were talking. So, and because y'all know we're about the action steps. We try to be very practical. So again, to repair that boundary, you have to acknowledge that the boundary was crossed. Then you have to repent.
Absolutely.
And apologize, because there's a difference.
Yeah. Repent and apologize.
Right. No, I'm not just, I'm sorry. No. There needs to be something in our heart that says, I am godly sorry. I don't want to, especially in a marriage, I don't want to hurt God this way again. I want something in my heart to change. And then I don't want to hurt the person I'm married to in this way again. And that could be from a big boundary to a little one. But if it has created, discord in the relationship, then it needs to be acknowledged. There needs to be repentance and apology.
Listen.
And then you need to, like you said, address the why. Why was it crossed to begin? And that is more for the person who crossed the boundary.
And what you're going to do.
And then put a plan in place.
Yes.
So that's the last part. Just put that plan in place to not revisit that spot. So safeguarding.
But right? I want to go back. You said something.
Go ahead.
You got to give a heartfelt apology. Don't be like, well, I'm sorry if that offended you. You already know they was offended. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Okay? Don't do that. It has to come from the heart. And you have to mean it.
You do. And sometimes, and I'm just going to say, for me, when I have kind of gone back on agreements or things like that, I don't want to be a truce breaker. And I had to really, two things. I don't like how it feels when I do wrong. I don't like how it feels yucky when I am the person that has broken or pushed the boundary or broken the agreement. I don't like how that feels. And so sometimes I will quickly want to get out of that spot. I don't want to sit in that. I want to hurry up. I just want to apologize and get it over with. That's not how it works. Now, granted, it shouldn't be kind of held over my head or beating me up with it, right? But at the same time, I should not be looking for, well, I apologize, so you should just get over it. No, especially depending on the nature of the offense.
Absolutely. And you're asking for retaliation when you take certain stances. You really are. You're asking for a person not to want to forgive you when your attitude is not one of true repentance or one of true sorrow. You're truthfully sorry for what you did. That apology is going to come. Like if it hits you in your heart, like sometimes, like just the thought of putting her through something like infidelity, just at the thought of it, it makes me cringe. It hurts me to my core to even think about it. That's why I put certain safeguards in, because I couldn't imagine having to come look her in her face and tell her that I've had an indiscretion. Man, that would tear me up inside, regardless of, and see, this is the thing that we can't do. You can't make a person's inability to be good at certain things an excuse of why you did something. You can't do that. You can't do that, because again, the shoe is always going to be on the other foot. When you're in relationship, there's going to be something that you did that could potentially push your spouse beyond their limit, their breaking point. And when you're not operating in grace thinking, that is what puts you at a risk to doing the such.
Yeah.
You have to care. Like, I don't do a lot of things just because, for me, I do it because I care about her. and I care. Like, I'm not having a conversation that I haven't discussed with my wife because I know how it would make her feel if another woman is bringing her information that her and I had a discussion with that she knows nothing about.
And you know, I want to say this too, because I trust my husband 100%. And some people be like, well, I don't know. But I do. I mean, we've been in this thing. We've been together for 18 years and married 17. And so there's just certain things. I just trust him. Like if he tells me this is what it is, even in my flesh, when my emotions want to be like, I don't. Well, what if, you know, and I did that smacking sound because that's those attitudinal emotions. Well, he could be lying or people change, or don't allow that stuff to come in. This is to the married people, right? Don't allow that stuff to come in when you know somebody through relationship with them. I think a boundary that you should set there is that trust and that belief, benefit of doubt.
Check the history.
Yes. What has the track record show it?
What has history told you?
And at the same time, don't so like he said, you know, with the setting the boundaries and not ever wanting to come to me and have to say that there was an indiscretion. I feel the same way. So the flip side of trust, though, is also setting boundaries, because let me tell you, Satan is cunning.
Listen, man, we were talking about that in Bible study last week.
He's cunning.
Like, for real.
He's slick with it.
He's slick.
He's been doing this for ages.
Listen, and you have to you have to be the responsible party and the accountable party to making sure that you know what's important to your spouse, that you know what could set them off or put them in a place. There's certain things I don't do because I know it could put Cassie in a place. I know. It's not even a thought. It's not a shot without my mind. I know. So I stay away from it. Like, I don't talk to women in closed spaces by myself. Just, I don't care who it is. It could be my sister. You know, like, real talk, because again, you don't know another person's background or history. And you might not even know certain things about your spouse because they may not have felt comfortable sharing that with you.
And sometimes people don't share things because, again, and it is a little bit in pride. I'm just going to say it, because of that vulnerability. You know, I used to, well, I'm not going to tell him that this bothers me because I don't want him to think I'm weak. Or I don't want to tell him that, and this was early on, right? In the first, I'm going to say the first 5. I'm not going to be honest about this because I don't want him to think I'm insecure. But guess what? There were times when I was insecure, not even because of something, not because of how he treated me, but because I was still being healed from other things where others had mishandled me and where I mishandled myself. Repeat, I mishandled myself. And so when you don't show up appropriately in relationships, sometimes what will happen is you start condemning yourself, or you start wanting to try to bring your own punishment on yourself when that other person is not even thinking about that, right? So I used to think, you know, well, and so just here we go, newsflash. I have not always been perfect. I have not always been perfect. I am perfect right now. No, I'm just joking. That certainly didn't come out right. Freudian slip. But there was a situation in my early to mid 20s. I say mid 20s that I am not proud of, you know. And so basically I felt like because, you know, I got into this particular relationship and somebody else was hurt behind it. Was it cheating on somebody? No. But it's still somebody was hurt behind it. So in my mind, I had already made up in my mind, well, I'm gonna read this at some point. So let me just go ahead. And so I was holding that within myself and I was taking it out on him. And I didn't want to come clean about that, because who wants to ever be honest or admit that they did something wrong, or they did something shady, or they weren't a good person in a certain moment. I used to be concerned about things like that. As you can see, I don't too much care today because the Lord has delivered me and freed me from that stuff. But the point that I'm making in all of that is stop trying to write your own sentence in your relationship.
Right.
Because some of the things that you think, I'm gonna pay for that, you might not.
Well, I think it's important not to do that, because now you're unfairly putting an unjust weight on your spouse.
Uh-oh. There's the words, unjust weight.
And that's just not fair. You know, like, again, especially when they haven't given you a reason to feel that way. And that's why I say a lot of times we got to deal with our stuff, man, because a lot of times the person they're not getting in trouble for something they did. They're getting in trouble for something you thought about yourself. And that causes more harm than it does good. You know, because when you can't effectively love somebody because you haven't forgiven yourself, just think about that. Think about how the person on the other side feels about that. Hey, y'all chime in. What do you think about that? How would you feel if you were on the other side? What kind of boundaries would you put in place to ensure that this type of stuff is not happening? Because you got to be paying attention, man. Like, this is what I'm going to say to everybody that's watching. Pay attention to what's going on with you and your relationship. Pay attention.
Pay attention. And so here, I'm going to go ahead. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Y'all know what happens. Sometimes it happens like this. I'm not going to tell any names, but I'm just go ahead and give it to y'all straight. And this is for my single people. So the situation that I was in was, I was in relationship with somebody. I had a person that was close to my life, and I ended up dating the same guy that they dated. Now that is, I broke girl code. I broke sister code. The guys call it bro code. I broke that. Now I did go to her and have a conversation, and she was like, well, you know, she was not happy about it. She was like, well, he ain't for me. And if that's what you feel your life is set up for, then go for it. Right. And it didn't work out well for me. It didn't end well for me. But the bottom line is, because I did that to her, I felt like I'm going to get it back. But guess what? I did get it back. Before we got married, I got it back. The same person went out on, went with different women on me, stepped out, and it wasn't even a cheating type situation, but I still ended up hurt because I set myself up for it, is what I'm saying. But then I also, not only did I set myself up for that, I tried to write my own penalty, right? I made myself judge and juror, and that's not on us to do. That's, God is our judge. And so, but I carried that because I carried the guilt of it, the shame of it, the pain of it. And then I brought that all into this marriage because it wasn't too far before us meeting, but it was close enough to where I still felt condemnation and shame behind that. And I told him all about it, but in the back of my mind, I felt like he's going to do this to me. Number one, because this happened over here. And then the next thing is, because I shared it with him, it's giving him a weapon or giving him something to use against me.
What she didn't know is I have a higher standard. My standard is not man. My standard is Jesus. Like real talking. I'm not trying to be boastful or prideful. That's my standard. I don't compare myself to people. That's why I can go into different circles and be good. I don't care who you are. I don't compare myself to you because you're a creation. I compare myself to the Creator because He's the one that set the standard for us. So I'm not giving you something because of something you did or happened before me. Because at the end of the day, after you told me, I let it go. I threw it into the sea of forgetfulness, never to think about it again. And I don't think about it until you say something about it.
And what's crazy is it wasn't against him. I didn't do anything against him, but I still had shame. I still had all the things. And I still felt like, I think too, when you marry somebody that's dang near perfect, I mean,
I ain't perfect.
And and when I say that, I'm talking about, because this is another thing, right? This is another story that we tell ourselves, because your history didn't look like mine. And I felt like mine was trash. Like I had some raggedy stuff in my life that has happened to me. And again, that I put myself in. And so because you didn't come from that kind of lifestyle, or you didn't have those kinds of things, I automatically kind of pedestaled you in a way when it came to that stuff. And so it was almost like, well, let me just throw everything I got out there And then if he runs away, then good. At least I've done my due diligence.
I mean, but this is the thing. It's like how it's like grace. Like how can I look down my nose at you when I've had my own version of that? Like we were in a rehearsal and somebody came up to you and was telling you about my old lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like I couldn't care about that. Again, my standard is not here. I don't lowball. I set my standards high because at the end of the day, I have to, and this is what we have to remember as believers. I still had to answer to God regardless of what you do. He's not judging me off of what you do. He's judging me off of how I responded to what you did. He don't judge me off of you being reckless. He judged me off of if I allowed you being reckless caused me to be reckless. Now, he gives me the grace to have an attitude and be angry about it. But what does it say? Don't sin. Don't allow your nasty, your situation or your circumstance cause it to lead you into sin or into a nature of sin. I still have to set my eyes up here. If I'm setting my eyes up here, I can't even focus on what you're doing down here. Because what you're doing down here doesn't matter to me because my mindset is up here. My mindset is like, okay, you did that. I look past it because I probably did something like that and probably even worse. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have the ability to look down my nose at you. Neither do I desire to because I love you. Because I want to be in peace with you. I don't want to hold those things into my heart. I know what that means for me. I know what holding things in my heart means for me because I was that guy that if we got into a fight and I saw you, every time I saw you, we was gonna fight.
My Lord.
Because I wasn't gonna let it go. I was coming at you every single time. Why? Because that's where I was before I gave my life to the Lord. So I don't let that stuff seep in anymore. And you have to be watching your thoughts in the way you allow what you feel about yourself to cause you to treat your significant other.
Yeah. And so I said raise your boundaries. And that doesn't mean raise them like lift them, right? It means think higher, not lift them to remove them, but raise them up, like come up higher, as you set boundaries for yourself, for your relationship, think higher, think up, right? Stop lowballing, in the words of my husband, he's so eloquently, but stop lowballing, stop thinking so low, and then get out of pride, right? Because that's gonna mess you up every time. That will mess us up every single time, thinking that we are further along than we are. And it's not, again, to be condemning. It is to be in reality about proximity.
Listen,
where you are.
I can't remember the last time I held on to something that I did that wasn't necessarily so good. I have a short memory when it comes to that stuff because I know, like, once I repented, I gave that thing to the Lord. It's covered under the blood. I'm not worried about that no more because I'm not worried. I'm not putting myself in a place where I can do it again. So to go back to the question that was asked, like, how do you repair when a boundary was broken or breached? You have to make sure that you first of all, let me say this. I want to give you a couple of other things. Number one, if you decide to forgive that person and reestablish the relationship, you have to forgive them for real. Mm-hmm. You don't get to hold that against them or hold that over their head. You have to give them forgiveness, true forgiveness for real. And if you're not going to give them true forgiveness, then you might want to hold on making a new agreement until you can forgive.
Correct.
Then the next thing you want to do is make sure that you establish new boundary. And a new agreement that says, I'm going to stay accountable. Not only am I going to stay accountable to you, but I'm going to stay accountable to someone else outside of you so that you have two sources of accountability. Mm-hmm. The word says there's safety in the multitude of counsel. There's safety in it.
Absolutely.
Who's that?
All right. So Tyrone says, no one is perfect. Like you guys said earlier, the devil is coming and coming hard. We have to learn the assignment, marriage, and protect and work together for a better marriage for both of us. Saying that if those boundaries are crossed, then don't give me no half-hearted apology and expect me to accept it. Thank God for you guys. So educational. What a blessing we are to be. To not be paying for this information. You got that right. You know, look, this is what the Lord has called us to. And so I know, but I thought I could. Oh, okay, gotcha. I thought I could do that. Mm-hmm. You think you can do these things? This is what we are called to do. Absolutely. And it is a pleasure to do it. And most of the things that you're getting, we've experienced. I'll say almost everything that we share, we've kind of walked through it and like, ooh, that was not a good decision. Ooh, we better try something different.
and you got to know, like, at the end of the day, the reason why, you know, we put the stuff out here is because we want you guys to be better than what we were and what we are. Listen, man, set your sights high, man. Don't set your sights low. Set your sights high. Set your boundaries high, because you can reach them. You can actually have a great relationship. Is it going to take work? Absolutely. It's going to take work. For those who are trying to repair broken boundaries and things like that, you have to believe that you can, your relationship can be mended. You got to believe that. You have to know that in your heart of heart. And then you have to be as equally serious about doing the work that it takes to get where you need to be.
Absolutely.
It's not going to just come to you. You got to put some work in.
So here we go. Right. This is where we can get the village involved. So boundaries for singles. I got to start it. Fellowship versus dating. Right. So no one-on-ones with the opposite sex, especially if you're attracted to them. Girl, boy, are you serious? I mean, and then I put boundaries for singles 1, 2, 3, go, because I want the villagers, if you all can chime in, just to give a nugget for our single people. If you're out here, if you're listening, that means you. What do you know? What do you have in your arsenal that can help another single person, male or female, to set a boundary?
Listen.
But I put that one out there because a lot of times we do things and
listen.
It just don't even make cat sense.
Don't start fires that you can't put out. Don't start fires. And I mean kissing, hugging, rubbing, touching, all that. If you know the standard for you as a single person is not to be having sex before marriage, then don't be over nobody's house after 7 or 8 o'clock at night. Don't be watching movies in the dark, all that kind of stuff. Like, you got to set yourself up for success.
And I'm about to put this next one out here. Come on, village. We need y'all. This is, and we're going to give some for the married people as well. But next one for single people. No physical touch.
Listen, keep your hands to yourself.
Listen.
Keep your hands.
Let me just tell you right now.
To yourself.
As a single person, it was hard out there. As I said, it was hard out there in them streets. Especially if your love language is touch. If that is in your love language, as a single person, again, what did I say earlier? To thine own self be true. Know yourself.
Listen.
Do not get into the touchies and feelies.
If you start touching, it's a wrap. You're gonna go all the way. You're gonna go all the way there, and don't even believe that you won't. Don't play with fire, man. Like, keep your mind stayed on the Lord, and keep your hands stayed on the Lord. You keep your hand and your mind stayed on the Lord, you won't be doing half of the stuff that people be out here doing, saying that it's okay because those of you who are engaged, it's not okay to have sex because y'all are engaged.
Correct.
It's not okay. Don't believe that lie. That is a lie from the pits of hell. Do not believe that lie, because you don't have the right to go in to that place unless you are married. Unless the contract has the marriage certificate has been signed and sealed and delivered. If it's not been done, You don't have the right to touch one another at that point.
You don't have the right to do it. So what we're doing, if you're just coming on, Cordell, I see you, brother. Good to see you tonight. Came on Facebook. What we're asking is for the villagers to chime in. We started with boundaries for singles, and then I put the next one up was boundaries for all. But before I say this, let's read Janae. She said, your thoughts direct your body. If you've been thinking it, you're already on your way. You got that right. And that is from one of our single villagers.
Listen.
Talking right.
Listen, what if?
Talking right.
God forgive me who I'm about to call out.
Oh no.
But I ain't gonna even call his name. He had a song. He said, my body's telling me no.
No,
my mind is telling me no, but my body. Listen.
I correct you so quick too, like no.
listen, tell your mind and your body no. Just say no. Yeah. For real. Like, because if you put yourself in the situation, it's gonna be Smash Village. I'm telling you, it's gonna be smashing going on, a whole lot of smashing going on.
And that is terrible, but it's the truth. And don't sit there and act like y'all don't know what that means. And that's another thing about the village. We got people watching from all different paths and different places in their life. And so, whereas some of you may not understand that, there are some people that understand exactly what he means when he says Smash City.
Listen, it's gonna be a party.
Lord.
And I ain't gonna say nothing else. You already know.
All right, so boundaries for all. I put just a good boundary for everybody would be maintain a financial discipline. Right? Maintain a financial discipline. Unless you want your finances in the gutter, unless you want to potentially be homeless, or unless you want to potentially be in a situation where you can do nothing for yourself. Right?
I'm gonna go. You already know I always gotta go the other way. Maintain a spiritual discipline.
Okay.
Have a spiritual discipline. Have a discipline to reading your word, knowing your word, and knowing the things of God. And stop thinking, well, that's religion. No, it's not religious. Stop letting people talk you into that foolishness. It's not religious. To be spiritual is not religious. Fact. It's being spiritual. What does Romans 8:5 say? He said, those who are of the flesh will set their minds on the things of the flesh. Those who are of the spirit will set their minds on the things of the spirit. If you're doing the things of the spirit, if you're doing spiritual things, you can't help but to get a spiritual outcome. So set your thoughts, be spiritual, man. Like, yeah, be financially sound and all that. But I think above being financially sound, be spiritually sound. Because if you can be rich and reckless. What good is that? You know what I mean? I do believe get your finances in order. You know, because listen, it answers a lot of things.
Absolutely. So what are some good boundaries for married couples? What about communication?
Absolutely.
Because I just wanted to give some practical things before we wind it up.
Communicate appropriately. Set a standard for communication in your relationship.
Exactly. Okay, so what does that look like? That could potentially look like no yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
At one another. Tone is everything. Packaging is everything. How you say something, and that's a whole nother other, right? But yeah. So set a standard for communication in your marriage. Another thing, don't discuss things when it's heated. Okay. Again. Okay. So let's go back to this real quick. I think this was probably when we first kicked off Marriage Village. We talked about periodically. Date night is not to discuss bills. Set a boundary, like even in your dating time as a married couple, these conversations are off limits for this time. Because anything that could present disagreement, discomfort, you don't want that on a date. So be intentional about, that's another one, be intentional about your time together. You know, if you're going, again, And no bill talk on date night. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
And well, this and also just knowing when to have the conversation. If you're not if one of the spouses is not a morning person, why are y'all talking about something serious early in the morning?
You got that right.
That's just not smart.
And I am a morning person, but I don't like to have serious conversations.
It don't bother me
in the morning.
It don't bother me when we have the conversation. It doesn't bother me when we have a conversation.
Jasmine said, "Oh, go ahead.
No.
You what are you about to say?"
No, I'm good. But
you sure? Hmm? Okay. So Jasmine said, "No hitting below the belt. That's a good boundary."
Absolutely. You gotta be able to have conversation without taking shots. Like, if you're taking shots, it's not gonna go well.
Not at all.
It's not gonna go well. You gotta give you gotta give yourself the opportunity to communicate appropriately or successfully. What's Pastor E say?
Pastor E says, keep the interaction pure. Don't have them in your personal space. Okay, so this is talking about establishing, she said, establish a curfew as well. No late night hangouts.
Listen.
Have accountability partners that have a relationship with the Lord. Operative words, with a relationship with the Lord.
Listen.
Keep your interactions pure with whomever, right? Because this culture is crazy. I could be hanging out with a sis and my interactions are pure, but maybe hers aren't. I don't need to say no more.
Rick Rogers, what's up, boy?
What's going on, Rick?
What's up, man? Good to see you.
Noonie.
Yeah, Noonie.
Yeah, so that relationship boundary, keep your interactions pure. Don't have opposite sex in your personal space.
Nah.
And then she said establish a curfew. So some people feel like, well, I'm grown, I shouldn't have a curfew. Yes, you should. Just because you are grown doesn't mean that you should just do whatever you want to do.
Listen, and
that's reckless.
If you don't have a boundary, you are bound to be reckless. It's gonna happen. You have to know that. Like, if you don't have some kind of boundary in play, like, you gonna be reckless.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then for you married people, make sure, like, same thing. Have a curfew. Get in the bed. If you know you always tired, go to bed. And I know that sounds so simple, but like, you don't understand how tiredness has the ability to impact your relationship in a negative perspective.
It can turn you mean.
Because if you're tired 9 times out of 10, you're gonna be snappy. And who wants to be around a turd who just who wants to be around a me? When back in the day when I was living in Columbus, I saw this sticker. It said "Mean people suck." It does. They do. Like, don't nobody like mean people. Mean people are awful. Yeah. Like, no. Okay,
we got some more comments and we're gonna wrap it up here shortly. But she said, have accountability partners that have a relationship with the Lord. You don't want an accountability partner that's just as reckless as you.
Listen.
That's agreeing with everything you're doing. Nobody wants a yes. Well, some people do like to have yes people in their corner. I don't want to be in a relationship with anybody like that. I want to be in relationship for accountability with people that are going to help me raise the standard. That's going to help me want to, go up. I don't need nobody helping me to lowball. We don't need help with that. Hold on one second. She says also, as a married couple, prioritize time together. That's a good boundary. There needs to be, we have some friends that say they call it their Sabbath, and because they minister on Sundays, Monday might be their Sabbath, and there's pastors that we know. Mm-hmm. They shut everything and everybody out on that Monday. And if you come to their house on that Monday, it's not that you can't get in, but it's already understood what's happening in that home is a refresh and refuel. Absolutely. For the two of them. Absolutely. And for you married folks, read between the lines. Absolutely. When I say refresh and refuel for them. And so you have to prioritize time together. And that time may not always be sexual. But just making sure it should be a good amount of that time needs to be. It needs to be. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. And I'm sometimes tired, but
listen,
I do understand the need.
Set aside time to make sure that it's happening.
Yeah.
Make it a priority.
It needs to be.
You know, make your intimacy life a priority and have conversations about it for real. Like if you need to be wined and dined before pillow time or bedtime happen, like, okay, you need to have that conversation.
Start whining and dining about 6 o'clock.
Don't expect anyone to just know what you need when you can open up your mouth and tell them what you need.
So that's another communication safeguard. That would be more of a safeguard. Use your words.
Use your words.
I mean, we tell kids that all the time. It's the same thing for adults. And I did, you know, at our last Marriage Village conference, I spoke to how sometimes, because of the way a woman may have been raised, that it's not ladylike to express your needs in intimacy and otherwise. A lot of times in intimacy, there seems to be shame for some women. Not, you know, I feel weird expressing it, or I don't want, but for some of us, it's not as difficult. For some of us that have certain type of history, it's not difficult. But for others, you know, I've got some sisters that were what I call raised in holiness. And so talking about anything sexual is uncomfortable for them. And so what we do, I'm that girl. I'm there. You know, we have certain conversations, and I don't even say I'm coaching them in what to say, but just coaching them and supporting them in being comfortable sharing what they need. Because when you're in marriage, intimacy and sex should be pleasurable for both parties.
Absolutely.
In it, it should not be just one-sided. This is not Color Purple or Mr. getting ready to do his business. We're not living like that. We don't. This is not in 2024. No more.
Both of us should be enjoying all the pleasures that come with the experience. Both of us, not just. And if you are selfish in that regard, you need to go repent and be better. Be better tonight.
Yeah, okay? Not tomorrow.
Be better tonight. Okay.
Tyrone said, I agree with Joe. So he's talking about the conversation. I agree with Joe. Morning, day, or night. If we need to talk, then we need to talk. Now, as to what Cass says, that is so true. But we will get the I'm grown, I'm not a child, yada yada. Some of us. Exactly. And so when you're in marriage, and that's when I'm like, oh man. I'm just thankful for the knowledge that we have now, because that's what happened. It didn't start this way. Because I used to tell him, you're not the boss of me. And I meant every word of that. And you know what? But why your husband's not the boss of you, but he's responsible for you. He's got to answer to God about you. And so don't make it hard.
And wise, if that's your thing, you need to go spend some time with the Lord. Because the only thing that's gonna break that is time with the Lord. Because I ain't trying to break that. Like when she would say that, I'd be like, you know what? That's a you and God thing.
And that's rude. I ain't even gonna say it's not. I don't know if it's disrespect, because I wasn't meaning it disrespectfully, but it's just rude.
It was rude.
To say
it was. I ain't gonna lie. I used to be looking at you like. But be the first one to tell somebody you need to lead me. You need to be. Okay. Just like you telling me I need to lead you.
Oh, we going there?
Just like you tell me I need to lead you, you need to allow me to lead.
Yes, and that is true, because I require strong leadership.
And let me be who I
am. And that's the thing. So here we go. This may be next week's conversation. But I would say I need strong leadership. I can't have a weak man. I can't. I just can't. It's a turn off. Weakness is a turn off, not vulnerability. Hear me clearly. But weakness in that it seems like I can just run over you and say and do. First of all, that shouldn't even be in my heart to do. But we all need to know I'm not married. He's not built that way to be ran over. He's just not that dude.
But this is the thing though. I'm also not going to provoke you. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say what I need to say, and I'm gonna let that be what it is, because that's who I am, and I'm going to respect who you are. And sometimes, man, you gotta learn how to give people grace to grow. Like when she make that comment, I'd be like, you know what? She just not in a place right now, and that's okay. So I gave her a place to grow, but also I had to grow. it helped me grow. It helped me learn how to shape my words and all of that. So so Jasmine,
what's up, Jazzy girl?
Absolutely, we will. Just send us a message, or just send. Does she have your information?
It's in the. If she just reach out to me, just inbox, and then we'll get the changing of the information, the phone numbers, and all that.
And we certainly do that, because again, that's one of the main reasons why this platform exists. It's not just for married people; it's for married people and for those who are seeking to be married. And the reason why we say it that way is because we want you to be appropriately informed before you go to the altar. Because we believe that if you are informed before you go to the altar, when trials and tribulations come after you get married, you'll have a fighting chance. You'll be able to stand, because you don't have this false reality of what marriage is, and you won't have to fight against that. Now you'll be fighting on a fair playing field. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, make sure that you're taking the time to, and married people, take the time to, like, if you didn't learn, hey, that's what this platform is for.
Right. And I love that. Just like you said, because a lot of times people get married and they don't have the information, they don't know what they're getting into. And marriage is a covenant. And so it's a little bit different than just, standing up in front of people, having a nice dress, spending all this money on, food and all these guests that half of them ain't going to keep you accountable after they eat your cake and drink your champagne or whatever is happening. Right. So it's really about the covenant. And, and I don't have anything against big weddings. I mean, ours was decent size as far as guests go.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, why invest all that money in a day or an event and you don't invest in you right before the event?
You don't invest in the event. The marriage is the event. That's the big the big attraction. Your marriage, loving one another, learning how to be there for one another, learning how to die to yourself, and learning how to live in what's best for the union. Like, when you learn how to do that, when you're around people who are going to hold you accountable to that standard, it's a beautiful thing. Y'all already know we have our upline. Our pastors, our bishop and our pastor was on earlier. Like, we go to them, we have our conversations, we do our work monthly.
You got that right.
You know what I'm saying? And this is the thing. Don't wait till it's bad. Do the work before it gets bad.
Please.
Okay? Don't wait till it gets bad.
Oh, we got a question that came in. Sorry, Deanna, I just saw this, love. She said, can boundaries and standards be in the same category? Can you address that real quick?
I believe they can, because in order for there to be a boundary, there has to be a standard.
That's good.
In order for a boundary to be in place, there has to be a standard in place. If you don't have a standard,
anything goes.
You're not gonna have boundaries. So you gotta have a standard in order to have a boundary. You gotta have a standard to even know how to put a boundary in place. What is my standard of living in this relationship, and what boundaries am I going to put in place because of that standard?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So hopefully that answered your question.
I'm trying, while you're talking, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get up the information for Bible study tomorrow.
Okay. But this is the thing. You have to take, you got to take this, you have to take your relationship serious. And stop just treating it like it'll just figure itself out. It has to be precious to you. It has to mean something to you. You know why? I fight for this. At one point in time, like, I had to fight. We both had to fight for this marriage.
Yeah.
We both had to dig deep. Be like, listen, I'm getting over myself because you mean too much to me. I can't lose you. And that's how you, when you're having your trials and your tribulations in marriage and relationship, the marriage and the relationship has to matter more than your personal feelings.
Facts.
That's how it stands. Because guess what? You don't know you have real love until it's been tried, until it's been tested.
Absolutely.
Okay. So just real quick, we do have, for those of you who are part of Church in the Village, and those of you who want to be a part of a village and want to be able to have a Bible study and ask questions and really going deep into how to apply this thing day by day. We have Bible study tomorrow at 7 o'clock, and it'll be over. We go from 7 to 8 unless the Spirit says otherwise. All right. We would love to have you guys on with us.
And the Zoom link is here in the chat, but we also will have, it is via Zoom. So you have to go to one of our social media platforms to copy the Zoom information, but it's the same information every week. And so we would love to see you online tomorrow at 7 p.m. So with that, is there anything else? Any questions, comments?
Does anybody have any questions? I mean, if you have questions, please ask them now. Is anybody asking questions on there?
I think we're good.
If not, listen, it's been real. We have had fun with you guys. We want you to have an amazing week.
Mm-hmm.
And please understand, you got this. I don't know what you're going through and what you're dealing with, but I just heard God say in my spirit, you got this. He's with you, man. Whatever you stand in need of, all you have to do is open up your mouth and ask, and really put it out there. Like, really put it out there. Is that you? Hold on.
Oh, she said she just messaged me.
Okay.
Okay.
Sweet.
Got you.
But yeah, like if you stand in need of anything, he hears and he knows, man. Open up your mouth. Real talk. Like, open up your mouth and let him know. And if you want us to touch and agree with you, please come on. I think we said Wednesday is our fast day.
Wednesday is our fasting and prayer day. We fast until noon every Wednesday. So from the time you wake up, just nothing until noon.
All right. Well, guys, we love you, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, and also with that fasting prayer, we pray. We do
at least 30 minutes.
Yes, and you can break that up again. Just come on tomorrow. If you can come on Bible study tomorrow, I think you will enjoy it. I think you'll be blessed. But we break it all down, and even just a nugget for those of you that are struggling to find that time alone with the Lord and to spend time in prayer. Maybe you're busy, you're working, you're doing all the things. You can break it down. I mean, you can do 5 minutes, 6 times throughout the whole day, or you can do 3 times 10 minutes, 10 minutes 3 times in the day, whatever you need to do. Or, is that right? Yeah. Or 2 times of 15 minutes a day. There's ways to do it and to get that time with the Lord so that you don't feel overwhelmed, and so that you can still start building up that discipline in your life of spending time with him. So thank y'all for joining.
Absolutely. All right. We do have a couple events coming up. We have the Marriage Village conference going to be in Sellersburg. Man, I said Sellersburg.
I'm just letting you just
Sellersburg,
go ahead.
Indiana.
And that's in April
19th and 20th. You want to get in the house. That's all I'm going to say.
And then if we're going to roll on back in reverse, we will be with Elders Alonza and Leah Gibbs in York, Pennsylvania. And I believe that is, coming that way, Pastor E. That is the 13th in York, PA for the Love Conference. And then on February 9th and 10th, we will be in Cleveland, Ohio for the Arrangement, which is the Extreme Relationship Conference with our spiritual parents, Bishop Romy and Pastor Rosina Coles in Cleveland, Ohio. That is February 9th and 10th in
Correction,
Cleveland.
The PA dates are the 15th, the 16th, and the 17th.
The 15th through the 17th are the Love Conference in York, PA.
Yeah.
And so again, just to kind of run that back, February 9th and 10th, Extreme Relationship Conference, the Arrangement in Cleveland, Ohio. February 15th through 17th, the Love Conference in York, PA. And then coming up, teeing it up for April 19th and 20th, the Marriage Village Conference in Sellersburg, Indiana. You want to be in the room for all, or for at least one or all of them, if you can. And so the Eventbrite link will go live for the Marriage Village Conference of February 1. Ooh, that's like the day after tomorrow, isn't it? February 1st?
Yeah. No, I think that's Thursday. Yeah, that's Thursday.
I'm sorry, February 5th is the date that link goes live. And so you can get your tickets, you can get your seat locked in. We're going to have a good time. But anyway, that's all I got for tonight. What about you, husband?
That's it. We love y'all, man.
We love y'all.
Hopefully we see you tomorrow.
Online Bible study.
Good night, everyone.